Well, I'm here for it.
I have an idea.
And I have to make sure to take it. She has to finish it. I want them to take it back to her.
Oh, yeah. No, I have to have it back. She has to start. Not I want to picture this math monster shirt. Red velvet, huh? The black and This is Evelyn Quick. She's been on tonight. Efficiency and man. Dr. Christie is the chair. Would you like to show my son. How are you? Oh, thank you.
I'm introducing you guys.
That's good.
I should emphasize when I say Amy Campbell.
Yeah, but don't forget.
Quick, Phyllis Quick.
No, Phyllis Mohammed, the principal.
What's this Quick?
Evelyn.
Evelyn.
Left side, here, yeah, Danielle's good.
And she,
Yeah, she likes it. That's good. Thank you.
That's adorable right there.
you think she'd say anything? Where are her parents?
That's Dad. I haven't received anything yet.
Yeah.
Oh, see. Okay.
So I won't say anything.
No. This is spelled wrong. Got it. Where are my glasses at? E.I. That's my last name. My maiden name.
Is that your name? Good news is really.
But it's
How do you pronounce that?
Monty.
Like French?
It is Scottish.
Yeah, free today. I hate when I have to.
Yeah, I know. I was like, I'm sure it's there somehow.
So it's just it's hard.
Oh, I would love to.
They have a Monteith brewery,
Yeah, the
Monteith
little
Chalet.
it definitely
They have all kinds of things there, yeah.
does
So have you done that ancestry?
These new kids, yeah, already took long. They're like a 10%.
You know, I might be disappointed if I
Yeah.
do.
Oh, they made you sweat.
You're pristine. Bro.
Thank you. I'd like to call to order the Board of Education meeting for Wednesday, February 20th. We have an interpreter here for us, Sandra. And Sandra, go ahead.
Sí, buenas tardes. Si alguien necesita interpretación al español, levante la mano y les alcanza un auricular. Gracias.
Thank you. And Sandra's going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance, so if we could stand, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Juro fidelidad a la bandera de los Estados Unidos de América y a la república que representa una nación bajo Dios, indivisible, con libertad y justicia para todos.
Thank you. You may be seated. I'd like a moment of silence to honor all the APS graduates who've lost their lives while serving our country. I'd like a roll call, please.
Peggy Mueller Aragon,
Here.
Barbara Peterson, Candelaria Patterson,
Here.
Elizabeth Armijo,
Here.
Yolanda Montoya Cordova,
Here.
Lorenzo Garcia,
Here.
Dr. David Piercy.
Here. Peggy is on the phone. She's not feeling too well. I think Barbara is going to be on the phone for a little while, and she'll be here in a little bit. I'd like adoption of the February 20th Board of Education meeting agenda, please.
So moved.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you. We'll go on to recognition of students, staff, and community. Board Member Montoya Cordova.
Welcome to tonight's board meeting, and thank you for coming. Our first recognition will be introduced by Associate Superintendent of Zone 2, Dr. Antonio Gonzalez.
Good evening, Superintendent Reedy, Board President Dr. Piercy, board members, APS staff, and community members. Tonight, do I have an honor of introducing an extraordinary student. Ms. Quick is the youngest student we know of to complete hands-on equations, a pre-algebra curriculum that is approved by APS for elementary gifted students. Ms. Quick's teacher, Katie Hamill, has been using this curriculum with gifted students for a few years. We will not say many as the script is written. She expects all her students to complete the initial series of 26 lessons with 100% accuracy by winter break of their 5th grade year. She calls the students who achieve this milestone, now get ready, she calls them math monsters, as they each get a monster puppet and may participate in a monster mash dance. Some students have to push very hard to make this objective by the winter break goal. And some students don't finish by winter break, but that's okay because they are able to work toward achieving this goal by the end of their 5th grade year. Some years, a 4th grader will get it done by winter break, but that's rare. Once, a 3rd grader finished it, and that was Miss Hamill's son, Ben. Ben is now a sophomore studying at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia with a dual degree in science and engineering. This fall, Ms. Hamill started working with a second grader, Miss Evelyn Quick. Evelyn started zooming through the hands-on equations. She just loved it. When Miss Quick was told about Ben Hamill, she was determined to beat his record and be the youngest student to become a math monster. This curriculum involves setting up, simplifying, and solving equations using one or two related unknown variables and using all four operations. In second grade, Evelyn really had not been exposed to much multiplication and division and didn't know her multiplication tables by heart. She pushed her way through all 26 lessons, computing the multiplication and division through brute force by winter break. It was an exercise in determination and stamina. When Miss Quick broke Ben's record by becoming the youngest student ever to become a math monster, Miss Hamill called her son quickly and asked him to see if he could come and visit Miss Quick over winter break to officially succeed his title. He came and brought a letter from a professor at the University of Pennsylvania in Philadelphia, congratulating Miss Quick and inviting her to apply when she's ready. You've been viewing a few pictures from the occasion on the screens as I've been introducing this recognition. Miss Evelyn Quick, would you please come to the podium with your teacher, Miss Hamill, and principal, Dr. Mahalik? Would the friends and family of Miss Evelyn Quick please stand so that we may also greet and honor you? Miss Evelyn Quick, we are so proud of you, and you are a great representation of your school, your family, and the entire Albuquerque Public Schools district. Thank you for being who you are. We're very proud of you. Would you like to say anything? You would?
Oh, I love it. She's so tiny.
I really love handling equations. It's just really fun. So I think that maybe everyone should try hard to just do everything in math that they can.
There you go.
And I think they should really just try their best, and if they don't complete it all, they don't complete it all. But it's not about completing it all. It's about having fun with math.
Nice.
Oh, she's awesome. She's so wonderful. Crybaby.
Thank you, Evelyn. Appreciate it, young lady. Thank you for showing me your equation.
Wow, look at that t-shirt. That is awesome. My grandma made it.
Thank you.
Oh my gosh, sorry. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Oh, you're so much.
That's really great stuff. That's really great stuff. Yeah. She's so proud.
Look at the video and dance.
You all of you get out on the dance floor and dance?
She's second grader.
Good job.
Thank you very much.
Yeah. I was impressed.
No.
Show me the equation.
Thank you so much. Oh, yeah. Oh, she's so awesome. She's so amazing.
I love it when, I cry when they're happy, but
Those are happy tears.
I just cry all the time with kids.
It's okay.
It's all right. I do too.
Those are pretty hard equations.
She's only a second.
Balance my check.
Had a bunch of things like.
She's gonna beat you out.
All right. You know, I feel very inadequate. I can't even, I didn't do well in math. It's amazing. Our next recognition will be introduced by Chief Financial Officer Tammy Coleman.
Thank you, Superintendent Reedy, Board President Piercy, board members, APS staff, and community members. Tonight I have the honor, the honor of introducing several outstanding high school bookkeepers. So my presentation has to do with math also, right? And the application of such. Bookkeepers are the backbone of the school's activity fund transactions. They use math every day in and day out, all day long. School activity funds are also subject to the very same federal and state laws that we have to adhere to for all of our other district funds, for all district policies and all other funding. School activities may be of a classroom or extracurricular nature and may include student clubs, student organizations, student publications, and sale of merchandise through a classroom or school store. The bookkeepers are responsible for creating purchase orders, processing an average of 800 checks, issuing more than 1,400 receipts, recording deposits, and completing monthly bank reconciliations, to name some of their many duties. Collectively, they handle in excess of about $7 million in activity fund transactions, and that was during the 17-18 year. So it's a lot of money, but so much of it comes in the form of cash and checks and that kind of thing. So these funds, although they're, relatively speaking, they're a small part of our finances, they are the most at-risk funds. And so we really need to congratulate these people for handling them so properly. They are instrumental in earning satisfactory or commendable audit ratings for their schools, which they do. Recently, specifically, Manzano High School earned a perfect audit, meaning that no audit findings were identified. And that is a major feat. You know, we're all human. We all make little errors. They didn't find a single thing. Congratulations to Deanne Martinez, Dr. Webb, and the Manzano High School staff. Several of the high school bookkeepers were able to join us this evening. As I call your name, will you please come up to the podium? Crystal Romero from Albuquerque High School. Rhiannon Chiwiwi from Atrisco Heritage Academy High School. Ramona Aragon from Cibola High School. Laura Carter from Del Norte High School. Judy Alderman from El Dorado High School. Demetria Burrell from Highland High School. Rhonda Larson from La Cueva High School. Deanna Martinez from Manzano High School. Magdalena Cobos from Rio Grande High School. Patricia Roybal from Sandia High School. Teresa Rosales from Valley High School. Raquel Wilson from Volcano Vista High School. Valerie Castillo from West Mesa High School. So these ladies have done some really, really great work, and I am so, so pleased to be able to recognize them and just show off some of the really good work that they have done. And I'm just really proud of them. Thank you for all the math you ladies do. We really need it. So would the friends and family of these staff members please stand so we may greet you? Thank you for supporting them. Thank you, ladies, for everything you do to help enrich the experiences of students and their communities. And I would like to shake your hands and send you off to the board. Thank you.
Thank you so much for all your work.
Thank you so much for your service. Thank you so much for your service.
Yay, women. So yay for
the name.
girls in math. That's awesome.
True.
Yeah, it's about women in math today. Yay. Really appreciate that. All right. Our next recognition will be introduced by the Executive Director of the APS Education Foundation, Shannon Barnill.
Thank you. Thank you, Board President Piercy, Superintendent Reedy, and board members and community. I am honored, and my quick math fact is a few facts that I'm going to be sharing with you before I have the honor to announce the employees of the month for February. Just wanted to let you all know that APS has 14,000 employees, including teachers, principals, counselors, nurses, IT techs, bus drivers, education assistants, custodians, cafeteria workers, secretaries, coaches, and many, many more. Teachers are thanked each month of the school year through the Pepsi Teacher of the Month recognition. And a few months ago, APS launched a unique way to thank other types of employees and created the Employee Recognition Program. Yay. Employees are chosen for this recognition through a nomination process. Anyone can nominate an employee who has been employed with Albuquerque Public Schools for 6 months or longer. A committee made of people from all different employee groups review the nominations and score the employees based on several criteria, including going above and beyond to make a difference in their role, excelling as a team player, carrying out each day with a positive and welcoming attitude, demonstrating innovation, leadership, and passion for their job, and enthusiastically supporting the APS mission. 4 employees are chosen each month as an employee of the month. So I guess I should say that again. 4 employees are chosen to be the employee of the month. I think I need to follow that young lady's lead. She was a much better speaker. Each employee will be celebrated on billboards around the city, honored at a board meeting, which is this evening, have lunch with the superintendent, which happened last week, receive a small commemorative gift, and a personal thank you note from Superintendent Reedy to their family. Mm-hmm. Hundreds of nominations have been received since the first opening in January from district employees and the community. We are excited, and I am super honored to announce the 4 February Employees of the Month. They are Carla Williams Beard, a counseling secretary at Albuquerque High School. I have Karen Montoya, an administrative assistant in the Threat Assessment and Employee Assistance Program. Juliana Reed, an educational assistant at Grant Middle School. And we also have Tony Sparks, a project manager at Facilities Design and Construction. Could you please join me up at the podium? And I would also like to ask all the friends and the family of Miss Beard, Miss Montoya, Miss Reed, and Mr. Sparks to please stand so that we may honor and greet you as well.
Amazing.
Thank you for everything that you do to strengthen our students and to make our district stronger. I'm going to ask you to go ahead and please take on your recognitions. And it's
not doing anything.
one last mention, and for your reunion tour, when you come back to the building and you guys reunite from your recognition, there's a plaque right outside the wall here towards the East Tower, and it has your names, and it will be here as long as your legacy lives on, I guess. So congratulations.
Okay, this is like a fun night, all these fun things, all right. Our next recognition will be introduced by Assistant Superintendent of Equity, Instruction and Support, Dr. Madeline Serna Marmon.
Superintendent Reedy, Board President Piercy, board members, APS staff, and community members. Tonight, I have the honor of introducing several exceptional individuals and groups that have made significant contributions to the Title I Homeless Project. As I call your name, will you please come up to the podium? Mrs. Holly Slade of Feed New Mexico Kids has worked tirelessly to assist the Title I homeless students and families. She was actively involved with the distribution of 2,000 Thanksgiving meals, including coordinating photos and articles in the Albuquerque Journal. Ms. Slade also works with and supports the weekly volunteers from Calvary. Mr. Nick Martinez is a trainer instructor at the Jewish Community Center. Mr. Martinez works with the Title I preschool program and the McKinley Middle School Title I after-school program to provide physical fitness activities that promote fun and team-building activities. The kids look forward to his motivating leadership. In addition, the Jewish Community Center also gives each student a gift for the holidays and has collected food and clothing for the students. The Bank of Albuquerque. With the assistance of Ms. Francie Monteith, Senior Regional Community Relations Manager, and Mike Bickle, Senior Vice President, who donated $5,000 to the Title I Homeless Project in December of 2018. The Greater Albuquerque Association of Realtors, with the assistance of Mr. John Lopez, President, and Ms. Janie Gilmore Daniels, donated more than 500 backpacks to Title I homeless students in August and presented a check for $15,000 to the program in December of 2018. Ms. Gilmore Daniels has also arranged all of the holiday parties and adoptions for our after-school sites and lunch programs for the past 10 years. Mr. Levi Weiss is a 7-year-old who raised money for the Title I Homeless Project for his birthday. He came down with his parents to visit the program to see the impact of his philanthropy in November. Mr. Weiss raised $500. Mrs. Joey Wilson is the donation and supply manager at the Title I Homeless Project. Her important work for the program was recently acknowledged in a Morning Sunrise episode with Steve Stucker and KOB TV. Mrs. Shannon Trujillo, a Title I resource teacher extraordinaire, coordinates all of the program volunteers and works diligently to connect the program to the community, including Cops for Kids, Albuquerque Involved, Birthday Ladies, and the Optimist Club. I would also like to recognize Mr. Anthony Fairley, who's the director of the Title I Homeless Project. And Mrs. Peggy Candelaria, who's the executive director of Title I. Would friends and family of these exceptional partners please stand so we may greet you? Thank you for everything you do for the vulnerable community of homeless students to help them thrive. We appreciate you. Thank you.
How did you raise that money? I don't know. I just raised it.
I'm so sorry. It was simple.
You're the ones who
just couldn't tell you.
They just gave me my...
I'm adorable.
Adorable, right, exactly. I'm adorable. I said it was important. And they said,
Okay.
yes, yes.
It's photo time.
Photo time.
Our pictures are probably in the background, usually. Photo.
This is the kind of stuff that should be in the newspaper,
Yeah.
on the news.
Of course, you know, so many people doing so many good things. So many people doing so many good things.
These children are exceptional, you know? It's amazing.
Little girl. I just...
My little granddaughter loves math. That's her thing. She's a math. She's a math whiz. That's what she tells me. I'm a math whiz. I'm glad you are. No, she goes, I can solve problems. It's like, okay.
I love you.
That's sneaky. I stole the pen because I need it. You don't need it? No. It's
Stopping to think about how she was going to do it. But no finger counting. She was just doing it all in her head. Okay. Oh, this is great stuff. Okay, so our final recognition, this is always my favorite thing to do, is a celebration of several of our board members' birthdays. So Elizabeth Armijo celebrated her birthday last week. Dr. Piercy celebrated his birthday yesterday. And Candelaria Patterson's birthday is this weekend. Yay! So everybody gets to join me in singing happy birthday. I have the worst voice, so don't. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Elizabeth, Dr. Piercy, and Candelaria. Birthday to you.
Thank you.
And then more. All right. So that concludes all of our celebrations and recognitions. Congratulations again to everyone. So excited about the women in math and all the civic engagement. That was great. So we're going to move on to public forum. We're just waiting for everybody to come in.
I didn't. It burned my finger. It burned my finger, and I said, "What is burning?" Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry for me. Thank you.
I know.
Does it?
Okay, whose favorite is cherry pie?
Yes, it's my favorite.
Is that your favorite?
Yes, it is.
Okay, well then you won.
Really, really good. I couldn't figure out what was burning my finger.
Brenda. It's just the two.
Now I'm eating the candle.
Great.
Okay.
You know, it's really good. Usually I don't eat it with ice cream, but this is good.
Okay. So I think we can go ahead and get started with public forum. So whether you are here with the requests for the Board of Education to consider, provide information, or just see how the Board of Education operates, we want you to know that you are welcome. The Board of Education has established rules for expected civil behavior during the meeting and public forum. Upon signing in to speak tonight, you received a signature form and a copy of the procedural directive, which outline those rules for expected behavior. The presiding officer will enforce these rules as appropriate throughout the meeting. The Open Meetings Act, NMSA 1978, Chapter 10, Article 15, requires that agendas contain a list of specific items to be discussed or acted on at meetings. And due to these rules, public forum is not a dialogue with the board members. Public forum is an opportunity for the Board of Education to listen to you and hear your comments. Tonight there are two speakers. So to accommodate the two speakers, each speaker has 2 minutes. 2 minutes for comments within the public forum time. The time remaining to speak will appear on the screen in front of you. At the end of the given time, please complete your sentence quickly so that other speakers will have a chance to speak. You may not yield your unused time to another speaker, and you are always welcome to submit additional comments to the board in writing if you are unable to convey your message or you're not able to speak within the 45 minutes. The Board of Education encourages you to stay for the entirety of the meeting so you may listen to board member comments before we adjourn, and it's only at this time may your concerns be addressed at the discretion of each board member. So our first speaker is Edgar Briggs. Hopefully I said that correctly.
Good evening, Superintendent, Board President. Some time ago that I stood in front of you with several other people to appeal for continuation of middle school sports, which I want to thank you for that. I'm not sure how often you're thanked for things, but this middle school sports has been a very important component as a past middle school principal. Tonight I stand in front of you to apply the recognition of 4 outstanding APS employees, one of which is Juliana Reed. Juliana started displaying herself as a special supporter and spirit of students and community over 20 years ago when she was part of the group from Grant Middle School and others in the community to open the first community center and community school at Grant Middle School. Several people, some of you may be in the audience tonight, some you may know. Monica Armenta, Danette Townsend, Stephanie Brown, past board member Robert Lucero, Mayor Marty Chavez, Paul Broom, Brad Winters, Alan Armijo, Mike McEntee, and numerous members of the staff at Grant. One was Juliana Reed. To make this idea become a reality. This occurrence at Grant resulted in a true ownership and unity in the community. Increased voting to support the district. We'd watch our tabulations and they would increase continually because our community was using the school as a community center. It was funded by the city in a collaboration. Increased voting to the districts, as I said, reduced vandalism, and increase in enrollment. Our student enrollment went from 400 to almost over 800 from kids coming into the community for that unity they felt. We would open at 7 o'clock in the morning and close at 10 o'clock at night, 7 days a week, and my wife would attest to that. This principal wasn't home very often. The feeling of the unity and support reminds me of the small town feeling I experienced as a child in our community. Also wanted to thank you for the superintendent and the school board for making it possible for the teamwork with ABC Schools and the city growth for the growth of community schools, homework diners to grow across the district. It's been a component that's very impressive, and 2 or 3 of those now in the homework diners as a part-time Title I person myself. To this, I close by once again saying congratulations to Juliana and other four individuals, other 3 individuals, and others recognized tonight. The spirit makes the school special. Without those people, it was my honor to have Juliana join my staff as a principal, and she was always there with all the EAs and et cetera, and those vital people. I would also like to offer up to myself as a volunteer to community school model. So thank you to the community school, thank you for the recognition of folks, and thank you for continuation of middle school sports. Thank you.
Thank you. Verlin Coker.
Hi, my name is Verlin Coker, and first things first, I want to apologize. I sincerely am sorry for my behavior, but I think you need to understand why. I do understand why you react the way you do, the demeaning comments, the silence, the way you dismiss me. I've seen it all before, and in part it is my fault. As a Native American man who's 6'4", I don't really have the luxury of being angry. I cannot be upset. As soon as I do, I am viewed as a danger or as unintelligent. Do you understand that all of this is from a place of frustration and pain? When you say things like the staff has a full-time job and can't spend all their time answering your questions and continual discourse, what this says to me is that you assume that I do not have a full-time job and therefore am not allowed to speak, and that I do not deserve to be here, and that hurts me. It reminds me of every time that a teacher's ever told me that I will never succeed. It reminds me of whenever I sit in my little brother's IEPs and they insult his intelligence because he has Down syndrome. It reminds me of that little girl who could not learn math because her teacher did not have the resources nor the training to do so. It hurts a lot to deal with this. I beg of you to remember why I am here. I am here because a student was assaulted at your schools. I'm here to help you guys. I'm here to be on your side and to actually influence change. When you dismiss me, you dismiss my little brother, you dismiss the assaulted student, you dismiss my people. Please, just once, as a Native American, I would like to be treated as equal. Thank you.
Thank you for your input. That concludes the public forum.
Thank you. We'll go on to the superintendent's report.
Thank you, President Piercy, board members, community members, and staff. APS is setting the standard for accessibility. We recently received kudos from our accessibility auditor a company by the name of Site Improve. They were very impressed by the quality assurance scores across the entire district. The Site Improve representative stated that for most large districts like APS, he usually sees quality assurance scores in the low to the mid-60s. APS has quality assurance scores averaging in the mid-90s. Quality assurance scores reflect readability scores, optimized images, the number of broken links, and the number of misspellings that can be found on a website. Quality assurance reports are sent out to all APS department webmasters on a weekly basis and all school webmasters on a monthly basis. Much of the credit goes to our webmasters for reading the reports and spending the time fixing the errors on their sites so that they are truly accessible. Web accessibility is one of the web team's top priorities. We are very proud of all of our schools and department webmasters to be setting the standards for web accessibility in education. A lot of hard work, and it's really wonderful to see that that we're headed in the right direction. So, as you learned in our last Board of Education meeting, the district has introduced a new monthly podcast hosted by a retired APS teacher gifted in the art of conversation. The feedback we've received so far about APS Open Book, about the APS Open Book podcast with Mark Goodrum has generated very positive feedback from the media and the public alike. I had the opportunity earlier today to visit with Mark in preparation of the upcoming March podcast episode. If you haven't listened to the February podcast yet, I wholeheartedly encourage you to do so. The format is refreshing. There's time to answer questions with the satisfaction that little editing, if any at all, is done. So you can really explain and discuss issues without fear that the most important points will be edited out. We talked about the quality of teaching in our classrooms today and the biggest misconception about the district and our hopes and so much more. The APS Open Book podcast is another service that we hope parents, students, and staff, and anyone interested in APS will take advantage of in order to independently learn about the state's largest school district. I'm especially delighted to know that anyone, anywhere, anytime has access to the podcast at no cost. APS is one of the first urban school districts in America, the United States, to launch a district podcast, and I'm confident that we'll have more to talk about as time goes by. This concludes, I have one more thing, I'm sorry. And finally, I'd like to give a shout out to La Cueva. The La Cueva High School Camerata Orchestra was accepted to the National Orchestra Festival as part of the American String Teachers Association National Conference. They are the only New Mexico public high school that has ever been accepted for this national honor. That's a wonderful way to go, La Cueva. Very proud of you. This concludes the superintendent's report.
Thank you, Superintendent Reedy. Yeah, and as a music guy, I appreciate very much the La Cueva honor, and they will be performing, I think, in March here at that conference, and so I look forward to actually hearing them. So thank you very much, La Cueva. We'll go on to spatial issues. The first one is consideration for approval of design development for Janet Kahn School for Integrated Arts, K-8, Phase 2. That's a discussion action, and Karen Allred will provide information there.
Yes, thank you very much. Mr. President, members of the board, I'm sure that you received the amended action memo in your folders, which I hope answered the question about the additional money that would be paid to the architect at the completion of the design development phase which is what the presentation was at capital outlay. So you'll see that the total architectural contract was $1,276,276.68. And we encumbered $891,938.55. So when you see on the budget analysis, it talks about $1 million in that activity. That's where we encumbered the $891,000. And the amount paid to date is $280,000, and an additional $101 will be paid at the completion of the DD booklet. And I stand for questions.
Are there any board questions?
No.
I think that was what we asked. What we asked is exactly what we're going to vote on. And what we're voting on basically is the completion of the design document and payment for our contractors of that amount of money that we, instead of the whole $1 million that was there, it's
Correct.
the amount of money that they've spent so far.
Yes.
Because we cannot go on to the approval of the follow-on until we get that sorted out.
Yes, correct.
So is that understood by the board? And is there any questions? Any questions from the phone? Do I have any questions from the phone?
No. I'll move for approval.
Okay, we got a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
Any other discussion? Okay, well, those in favor, please say aye.
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 All opposed? Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll go on to the second special, which is the consideration for ratification of the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education of Albuquerque Municipal School District Number 12 and the Communication Workers of America and APS Food Services. And presenter will be Todd Torgerson, Chief Human Resource and Legal Support Services, and Karen Rudis, Executive Director, Human Resources.
President Piercy, board members, Superintendent Reedy, we are here tonight to seek ratification for the tentative agreement that CWA and Food Services has agreed to, and I'd like to introduce Paul Aguilar.
Good evening, Mr. President, members of the board.
That's all you're going to say? He had a lot more to say during negotiations.
That was quick. That was quick.
I'd also like to introduce, though, Sandy Kemp from Food Services, who is an integral part to the team. Do you have anything to say, Sandy? Okay.
Nice.
So we're just requesting ratification.
Are there questions? Any questions? Are you going to present anything, or you?
You have the tentative agreement.
Okay. Any questions from board members? I'll go to the phone first. Peggy or Barbara, any questions?
Not on my part.
I can't hear very well. Is that says no? Any from the board members? Board?
No questions. I'm happy that there's an agreement.
Okay. He said no. Okay. I was having a hard time hearing. It was pretty light.
Just because it was your birthday yesterday.
Yeah.
We all heard it.
Yeah. Ouch. For someone that just had one herself, I mean, come on. Yeah. It is a little bit less. It's kind of about the age of my oldest son. Not quite, but.
Dr. Piercy, I'd like to move for approval.
Okay, I got a motion for approval. Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay. I did have just a couple of questions. I know on your, well, it's my page 36 in your Article 15 on wages, and you have some increases in there. And you do have a comment about the fact that depending upon what the legislature really does, that may change a little bit depending upon what we have. Is that correct?
Correct. President Piercy, board members, we're hoping that that changes and that there can be raises in the future depending on the budget.
Okay. Yeah, and that may be the case. So I just clear it to the board that, you know, there may be some changes depending upon what the legislature does, and that. I also had one question over here, and I think it's more a question of language. Actually, it may be in the, pardon my, this is a long document. I think it's a long document.
117,
Yeah, it's a lot of documents.
to be exact.
Let's see, I think it's on page, well, I got 47 of 62, my 102.
Oh, I did have something flagged there as well.
Couple of little things. You're mentioning, this is on the bus driver thing, and you're mentioning, the line is if the driver still refuses to do the route, it will be posted, and the driver will move to standby and so forth. And I think the issue there is, even though it said it would be done safely, in other words, it's not just automatically done. It's if the bus driver says they don't want to do the route, but it's agreed that it could be done safely.
Excuse me, President Dr. Piercy, board members, that, I thought we were asking for ratification on the food service right now?
Is that just the food services?
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
So if we could.
That's probably the next one then. I'm sorry. Yeah.
Food service just goes to page 54.
Yeah, I was trying to figure out which one I was on here. Okay. Yeah, I think that's, I think that's all I've got. Maybe on page 37, on the downgrades, it says, or chooses to retreat, if the employee fails to perform in a new job title or chooses to retreat. Is that just standard language? I don't know what retreat means. Sounds like.
Yes, Dr. Piercy.
Sounds like I'm backing off. Yeah.
That's.
Is that just standard language?
We did struggle over that term,
Yeah.
actually. But we chose retreat because sometimes it's the employees, at the employee's request.
Yeah.
And so that they're then able to go back to their former position at the same salary.
I got the opinion of what it was going to be. I guess I wouldn't have used, I'm not sure that term was a term that I would have, if I just used retreat, you know.
It sounds militaristic, military-like.
Yeah. Yeah. In other words, or if it chooses to return to their job, yeah.
I just have one quick.
Okay, sure.
Board member.
Yeah,
President.
sure, Board Member Patterson.
Okay, with regard to disability, how long does an employee have to be out with a disability? What is the length of time?
That's not in the contract language.
It's not?
But so that would be dependent on several variables, and each contract has different language. But per FMLA, of course, we have to follow those guidelines. And then some contracts have extended unpaid medical leave or just extended unpaid personal leave. We actually try and work with the employees as much as possible to retain their jobs if they return, from an HR leave standpoint.
Okay, but there's nothing, yeah, I did notice that. I know in the other contract it is in there. So it's done on a case-by-case basis?
For the most part, it depends on if it's through risk management and we're working through FMLA and an ADA accommodation. But we give the employee all the advantages they have until they wish to go out on disability.
Okay. And because you don't have that in writing, if the employee, does it simply take you would take the information from an employee's doctor, right? If
Correct. We have to seek the physician's statement,
right.
And Mr. Torgerson can speak more to that.
Okay. I just wondered about that.
Good evening, Dr. Piercy, members of the board. Part of that, too, would be part of, it actually runs through Madeline Shop and OEOS with respect to engaging in a timely good faith interactive process. So the employee with a disability or significant issue would come forward with their doctor's note, then we would engage in that good faith interactive process to explore reasonable accommodations.
Do you also send the employee to a doctor that you have contracted with within the district?
Occasionally we do. Yes.
You do?
If there's a question as to the ability of, sometimes we'll get doctor's notes that are not fully complete, and so this allows us to get additional information, functional capacity information that we can engage in a more detailed good faith interactive process meeting.
Okay. Is the employee allowed to challenge this?
Yes.
They are?
Yes.
Do they have
It is a fully
recourse?
interactive process.
Okay.
Absolutely.
All right. Thank you very much.
You bet.
I had one other question. On the element 12.1 in uniforms, and you had a little red line at the very end, says, each employee shall receive 4 shirts annually. Is that the only part of the uniform? I mean, are there other? I just wondered, you know. You get 4 shirts, but, you know.
And they have to wear pants, okay?
Yeah, I wasn't sure.
Thank you.
They actually have slip-resistant shoes, too, so there will be less slips and falls in the kitchen as well.
Yeah, I just kind of thought it would be like each employee shall receive 4 uniforms or something, you know.
Previously, we gave it to them without having it in union contract,
Yeah.
but we were providing 3, and they asked for 4. So we put it in contract language to give them 4 instead of 3, which we were previously doing already.
I see. Well, what do they do for the rest of the uniforms?
Normally, the Friday is a spirit day, so the kitchens will wear the spirits or the union shirts that they have.
But I mean, do we give it, we provide these uniforms for them? You know, they don't have to buy them themselves, right?
The shirts, correct.
Yeah.
The pants, no.
Okay, I'm gonna
It
give up.
defaults to the standards of conduct in the professional wear, so khakis, black pants, dark pants.
So the employees provide those themselves, right?
Correct.
But are there any other special things that they have, like safety apparel or things like that? Because I'm just, it just seemed funny to me that you all of a sudden said, okay, you get 4 shirts annually, you know?
No, we provide the
When there are other kinds of things that they get, right?
the aprons, everything that the kitchens would actually utilize for safety purposes.
But that's just part of the job.
Correct.
In
We
the
want
sense
our-
of where they are, right?
Correct.
Not something they maybe wear to the job or whatever.
Yeah, we provide for safety and for health regulations, like they can't take the aprons outside.
Right,
Yeah.
they're just there
Yeah,
at the,
correct.
okay, yeah. Okay, I'm just interested how all of a sudden we got 4 shirts, you know? Why not 3 or why not 5? I don't know, you know. 4,
Didn't require any shirts in the past.
okay. Oh, no shirts. Now I am interested.
It was very easy going over there.
It's hot in the kitchen, so.
Let me see, yeah.
But it gets all over the food.
Good, okay. Okay, that's good.
We're not going to go there.
Good, that's good. Okay, we have a motion, no other discussion here?
I just noted that on page 47,
Oh, yeah.
you have on 2.1, you state the names of employees in a bargaining unit and a unique identifier, and you have a unique identifier indicated twice.
Oh, thank you. Good catch.
I know, I never catch those kinds of things, so I was kind of proud of myself.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I did have that editorial, but yeah. Good, okay. With that, all in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you very much.
Thank you.
We'll go on to the next item, which is the consideration for the negotiated agreement between the Board of Education Albuquerque Municipal School District 12 and the Albuquerque Education Assistance Association and the APS TMC Transportation Unit. And Todd and Karen.
Thank you, Dr. Piercy, board members, Superintendent Reedy. We are here tonight to accept ratification, or to request ratification on the the EA Now bus driver, bus attendant tentative agreement, and Kathy Chavez from the union is here to present, as well as Paul Aguilar.
Good evening.
Hey, Kathy.
Board President, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. Thank you for having us here tonight. I just want to say that as for our contract this year, you know, I've been around since dirt was discovered, but this has to be the year that I personally am so very proud of our newest group that is now part of AEA, and that's our bus drivers and attendants. I want to thank the board for all of our many discussions in order to help us support and get them in there. I want to thank Royce and Nick from the bus, okay, I'm going to say bus barn. I'm sorry, I'm old. I used to be a bus driver and we called it the bus barn. That was a long time ago. As management, I can tell you that we had very positive negotiations. It was really an honor and a privilege to be a part of it. I really didn't have a whole lot to do with anything because they had not only on management side, but on leadership side, we had fantastic people. I sat there and learned a lot and just interfered when I thought it was necessary. So I want to say thank you, and I'm looking forward to many, many more years together working with them. At this time, Board, I would like to introduce to you two people, Florentina Lopez and Ruben Apodaca, who have taken on the leadership role, and they want to introduce their bargaining team and just say a few words to the board, as this is their first contract, and they would just like to have a couple of words to say. So would you indulge us to have them do that, please?
Sure, that sounds
Okay.
great, Kathy. Thank you.
Good evening, President and members of the board. My name is Florentina Lopez. I am a school bus driver. I work with the APS Transportation. I've been doing school bus driving for 35 years already. So coming to APS is a really big step for us. Having to do the agreement between bus drivers and attendants to work with Royce and Nick and stuff like that with negotiations, it was actually really good. I had a lot of positive outcome with it. It was easy to work with them. They understood, probably because they've already been bus drivers themselves, so they already know the situation. And, you know, we're here, and I'm here to represent the rest of our bus drivers and attendants, you know, that we want to thank you guys for listening to us and giving us part to, we can be part of the union. Thank you.
Mr. President and members of the board, my name is Ruben Apodaca, and I'm a bus driver with APS. I'm also a member of the contract ratification or negotiation team. The other members of the team, if you could stand up, Anita Joe is an attendant. Richard Valenzuela is a driver. And other members couldn't make it tonight. But they were all part of the team, and we put in a lot of hours. It was a learning experience. It was a positive learning experience. And I think one of the best things that come out of it, besides an agreement, is that we have a positive relationship with our managers. We feel that we can go to them at any time to discuss any problems and get a beneficial resolution to any problem or issue that we come up with. So thank you for your time and your support.
I'd like to also bring Royce Ben and Nicholas Brook to the podium so that they can speak as well, because they were an integral part to this. And we all learned a lot about negotiations with bus drivers.
Mr. President, members of the board, and Raquel Reedy, Superintendent, just to kind of reiterate, we worked a lot of hours and worked out our disagreements and agreements, and it was very much a learning for everybody on both sides, and it at the same time was very enjoyable too. So thank you all for your patience, because I know that you wanted this quickly and done correctly, so appreciate your help too with all that. Thank you.
Said the same thing I wanted to say.
That's all we have.
Okay. Board comments?
I'd move for approval.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second for approval. Discussion, comments?
And
Anything from the cheap seats out there?
yeah, can you hear me?
I can barely hear you. I'm not sure what the deal is. Yes. Is this Barbara or Peggy?
This is Barbara.
Okay.
And yeah, I'm on my car speaker, and so it may be going out.
I see.
Thank you, bus drivers, for the work you do every day, and thank you to the negotiating teams for creating a contract that I think we can be proud of. Hopefully with this legislative session, there'll be enough money that we, and this is true for the cafeteria workers as well. I mean, hopefully things will rise in terms of salary, but I'm really delighted that we have a contract in place.
Thank you. I think they're saying Good job.
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
Good.
Board President, because, excuse me,
Yes.
Because it is a new contract for the bus drivers, but we are together. I also want to thank you for the Albuquerque Educational Assistance part of the contract.
Sure.
Thank you to Karen. You know, we had our issues, but we resolved them. I think we got some really good language in there. But I'd like to introduce the team that worked with us very closely, and that is Felipa Kuhn. She is out of Aya Vista, an educational assistant. I have Merle Tillman. She is a long-standing educational assistant out of Mission Elementary. Juan Enriquez, who could not be here tonight. My assistant, Helen Montoya, 31-year retiree from Alameda Elementary School, and my newest staff member, Brenda Fire, wherever she is, she's learning, and also Debbie Conrad staff. And this was a good year. I really appreciate it. It just went so well. And I mean, we've got a lot more we want because I'm very greedy, but when we will continue to ask for those things. The only thing I want to repeat that I've repeated every year is we really need more professional development, especially in the special ed arena. We only have NVCI, some autism, and that's little to none. And the kids that we are getting are becoming more and more challenging, and not just in special ed, but regular ed. And this is not just in the schoolhouse, but on the school buses. So the more understanding and training we can get on how to help and work with these kids and how to protect ourselves, because they are becoming more and more physically violent. We just want some more opportunity to train. We now have the 5 days prior to school starting. We have negotiated 3 of those days, hopefully, to be professional development. And we're going to work on what those are going to look like, so that's a big plus. But that's the one thing that I ask. And with all due respect, and nothing, we have some fabulous, excellent principals out there, but there are some that still don't understand or are not as supportive as they should be. So hopefully somewhere in your realm, you can help us work with that, because there are some serious issues out there that we can work on. And so with that, I do thank you, Board, and we hope that you do ratify our contract.
Thank you very much. I appreciate those comments. Discussions, any comments on some of the content or at all?
I just wanted to thank the team. The fact that these folks work together is amazing. But looking at this information, it is very complicated, and I learned an awful lot. I'm not sure what questions to ask, but it's very complicated, and I appreciate the work, and thank you so much. Appreciate all that you do as well.
We thank you.
You bet.
Other comments?
I just want to add that just a note of gratitude to both, the bus drivers and also to the educational assistants. You're backbone for our schools, because you tend to be some of the first eyes for our kids, and it's a first line of safety for a lot of kids. And the importance of what you see and how you engage with students is really critical. My mother was a 25-year retiree with APS and was an educational assistant the entire time. And she still talks about, that work and how lovely it was. She never left our community. She was always in the South Valley. But she saw the work increasingly get more and more difficult as the years went by. So I just want to say a note of gratitude for the amount of work you do, and a note well taken in terms of that professional development, because I think it goes without saying that we really need that backbone to be strong, because you see students sometimes when no other eyes are on the students, especially when they're on the bus. So thank you very much for your hard work.
Dr. Piercy,
Yes, go ahead.
I do have another question now that we're on the EA specific part of the contract. I'm wondering if the negotiating team feels like there is sufficient language in the contract to deal with the professional development part. And the other part of my question, because I do hear instances of EAs being injured on the job, do we have a way of collecting that information, looking at it in order to really figure out what do we need to work on, what do we need to fix to support the EAs in the classroom?
Okay, I think our questions were two. One is there sufficient professional development language in the contract? The second part is that we know that some of the EAs have commented about the fragility of the job in terms of the violence and sometimes getting injured, and are there things that we need to work on in terms of that agreement, or in terms of how we can? It's not much agreement; it's just what do we do in terms of real processes, and make sure that we do provide those protections. So, with that, do you have any thoughts?
Board Member Peterson from the balcony and Dr. Piercy, yes, we have embedded some new contract language in that regard. The assault language for EAs has always been present, and we track that, and they have to file a report with the police, and so we are in the mode of tracking that, and they are going up. And they're going up not just in special ed, but particularly in regular ed. So that is something we're tracking, and we also agreed that we would have the nonviolent crisis intervention training for some of the harder to fill special ed classrooms prior to them being placed in the classroom. So when they're new hire, they have to have that training completed before they move into the classroom. And then the other thing that we would like to do too is with those extra days at the beginning of the year, we have 2,000 EAs across the district roughly. We would like to have all of that PD prior to the school year. Now, it's just a lot to do in one setting because we have so many. It's sort of like, trying to train all the teachers at once. But part of our orientation is going to focus on that, and we are going to work on that piece.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, I think one of the things I might request, do you have something?
I do, real quick, just
Okay.
with respect to the safety aspects of that, and I know, Kathy, we worked hand in hand and collaboratively with Spine Solutions as a vendor actually to evaluate all of the EA positions, to look at all the functional capacities of their essential functions, lifting, pushing, bending, stooping, to work on core safety related issues to help protect them in their positions.
Sure. Yeah, I think, of course, first thing is to understand what our problem is. I mean, from the point of view of the injuries and that kind of thing. But the bigger problem is to actually address what are the root causes of that, and how do we actually start preventing those kinds of things from happening. So I think, again, from a board perspective, you asked, well, what's our realm? Well, I don't know what our realm is anymore to some extent, but I think, again, it's a matter of saying if we could get that information and then discuss some of the issues related to how do we address what we call the root causes of those. In other words, what are the root causes? And some of them may be de-escalation, how do we de-escalate situations, those kind of things, obviously. But again, part of it's also working with our community. In other words, our community has to understand that we have to be able to provide a safe place, but we also have to try to work with our parents and with our community members to, in fact, see if we can have methods and techniques that they might be able to use to help with the kids that come to us. So, there are a lot of things here, I think, that are part of that discussion. So, Kathy, you have something there.
Mr. President, what I would like to say is that I think we have put several things in place, but there's still so much that needs to be done, and you're absolutely right. Special ed is a world by itself, and we know that we have a lot of serious issues there as far as violence, et cetera, et cetera. But what we're finding more and more is our regular ed kids, especially the babies, are coming in extremely, and I am not exaggerating, emotionally and mentally disturbed. And they are runners, they are attackers, they are biters, they are kickers. And our regular ed EAs, special ed EAs, I think really go into that field because they understand the work they do. We need some kind of supports in the regular ed now. We need it all around. But I attended a conference of the Americas for the mayors of South America. The Albuquerque Police Department did a presentation. The presentation they did was exactly about what we're talking about. They said it started about 10 years ago when the recession really hit. They showed the high crime areas or the high poverty areas, and what they showed was, the research was showing that all the babies who would be kinder age, first grade now, are coming in as a result of the bad stuff that happened. People with no jobs, no ability to feed their children, turning to drugs and alcohol, physical and mental abuse in the homes, and these kids are coming in as a result. It's kind of like the fetal alcohol syndrome was 100 years ago. These kids are now coming in with that, but they're coming into regular ed because they're not being diagnosed as special ed yet. The amount of time to get them into where they really belong takes so long, but in between that, those of us that take care of them need the training on how to understand, to work with them, and to protect ourselves and to protect them. Yeah. And the supports that go with that.
Yeah, and I think part of the pre-K, early childhood, the kind of things that some of our board members have actually worked with in some of the health services and that needs to be part of the solution as well, so that we can actually work with those agencies with the type of things that are going on to try to help some of the preventive things from getting to the later stages. So yeah, it's a big community issue. It's not just us, but it's a big community issue. And so I welcome that recognition, and I welcome the ability for us to work on that. So we will definitely be doing that. Yeah. Just a couple of things. Actually, I did read all this, which is really dangerous.
Yes, it is.
It's really dangerous. So let me just ask a couple of questions, and I'm sure that everything's fine. I just, when I read words. So on page 98, under the S for longevity, and they're talking about the employee's base hourly rate, and they said that EAs, including HAs, will receive longevity allowance, $300 upon completion of 10 years of service, and this is added to, it says the employee's base hourly pay rate. I don't know that that's the right language from because that sounds, if you got an hourly rate and it's like $12 an hour, if you add it to the base, $100 to the base rate, that would be $112 an hour. Yeah, that's what I was saying. Whoa, this is really good, Yeah, I think you mean you're adding it to the overall base pay, not necessarily the rate. So I call the base rate the amount you merit per hour. Like $12 an hour, $15 an hour, hopefully more than that. But that was the language before. I mean, I noticed when you crossed it out, you still had this.
But it's clear the way you put that, and I think we probably need to correct that.
I think you mean it's added to the base pay, not the base rate.
It's the base pay.
Yeah. Tried to clarify some of those things and the difference between
Definitely, yeah.
tax rate and property tax, but that wasn't clear to people sometimes. There's a difference between the rate and the actual base. So I maybe could clarify that, and that's on the next page as well, those things, just to make sure that that's clear. Not that you wouldn't love to have $100 on the base rate, hourly rate, that would be good. Yeah, and now over to page 102 with that, just a couple little editorials there. This is the Article 14, but over there all in the way of I. And this is where you're talking about routes where you might actually be able to be done safely or not done safely, or certain things stopping. And so the bus drivers may have a disagreement about whether that, stopping or whatever they're doing is going to be safe or not. And so the idea was you negotiate that a little and you determine from all the bus drivers whether they think that's safe or not. And so the sentence was, it says, if the driver still refuses to do the route, it will be posted and the driver will move to standby. But I think you mean if the driver still refuses to do the route even though it's determined to be safe. Now, there's not just because you didn't want to do it. I'm pretty sure that's clear as to what you intend there. I just kind of wanted to make sure it's clear that it's only if, in fact, it's already been determined through whatever process you have here that it is going to be a safe thing, but if the driver still refuses to do it, well, then they would move off to doing something else.
Page 102.
It's 47 of
Add
60.
anything to that?
Yeah, it's 47 of 62I, or it's 102 in my cumulative number of pages
Right,
here.
it's the third sentence in at the end.
Yeah.
Article 14.
Yeah, number I, it's the
I'm
third
assuming
sentence.
they wouldn't want to drive the route because it's not safe in their opinion, but then they're notified that it's safe, and so.
If they still don't want to do it, even they've been notified that it's safe to do, then they would be moved on. But only if you've gone through that process.
Okay.
Yeah. And then just a very minor thing, down here on M, you said TMC sign-ups for special events, and then you said Balloon Fiesta. I think you mean, for example, Balloon Fiesta. There may be other kinds of special events, right? Yes. I don't want you to think that that's the only thing. This is for example. You just say, for example, Balloon Fiesta. Yeah, I'm really getting nitty here. On page 104 or page 49 or 62 under D, this is the drug testing, and it says, during the employee's normal work schedule, the employee shall be compensated at the employee's regular hourly rate. If not, the employee shall be compensated at the miscellaneous rate. I'm saying, well, wait a minute. It says you shall be compensated at the employee's regular hourly rate. That sounds like a shall to me. I don't even know what this miscellaneous rate means, and I don't know why you would do that if you said it shall be compensated at the regular rate. Seems to me like you would
Well,
be compensated.
it's not an overtime or, it's the regular hourly rate.
But then it says if not, I don't know why you would not be compensated at the regular rate.
Right.
And I don't know what
Unless Nick can elaborate on that.
I don't know what miscellaneous rate means either.
There are other rates that they'll pay for different special events. Right, sometimes it's higher.
It just sounded funny because you said you shall be compensated at the regular rate, and it says if not. In other words, I don't know, maybe if not. So what you mean is that if it's not during a time when you do the regular rate, then you would be compensated at the miscellaneous rate. In case would be Balloon Fiesta. Yeah. So if it's not during a regular time, then you would be compensated. Yeah. So maybe you could just say if it's not during a regular transportation time, you would be compensated at the miscellaneous rate. Just to make sure it's clear that it just sounded like, oh, no, we're not going to pay you at the regular rate, so okay, we'll pay you at the miscellaneous rate.
Correct.
Just for a little bit
We'll
clarification.
make that change.
Right.
Vice approves that.
And then down on Article 20, I was just interested, again, I'm sorry, but this is more interesting. D, on D, and I'm a bus driver. Let's say I'm a bus driver, right? And I'm thinking, and by the way, the bus drivers need to be part of all this discussion we're talking about with the EAs too. It's not like you don't have some troublesome activities going on in a bus, and you're trying to drive this bus, right? And you got a bunch of crap going on, Sorry, but it's exactly the problem, right? So, but down here it says bus drivers' attendants are to keep a current seating chart for each of their schools on their bus at all times. I don't know what that means. Seating chart. You mean you've got your seats assigned to individual students, and they're supposed to sit there? Really? Good luck. Wow.
I was surprised at that, too.
You guys are better than I can imagine. I'm surprised they can even, in a classroom, you can get them to sit where you want them to sit, Really? You really do that, huh?
Yeah, and
I'm impressed.
Dr. Piercy, part of that conversation too, and the reason we talked about the seating chart assignments is with the kinder kids, they're new to that site.
Yeah.
So they might not have the names of those students the first day of school.
Yeah.
So that was all part of that discussion. It was interesting. I was surprised too, back in the day when I rode the bus, it didn't matter
We
where
just
it
got on
was
the bus, man, we go on athletic trips, we just, wherever the seniors are sat and wherever, but I'm impressed. Yeah, I really was surprised you would have a chart where they say, I thought, really? If you just had the list of all the names, I'd be impressed, Yeah, and I'm very much in favor of the fact your kindergarten students are not to be left unattended. In fact, I'm almost to the point of saying I wouldn't want any of them to be left unattended. I coached soccer for a lot of times, and my rule was, when we're done with soccer, I want you to be there to pick up your kid. And if you're not there to pick up your kid, I'm taking them home. And you can come pick them up at my house, because I'm not leaving them there. And we're talking about, older kids than kindergarten kids. Now you're really complicating it. Yeah, I'm impressed, really. Yeah, thanks, guys. I'm really impressed. Yeah, good job. Okay, well, I just kind of wondered if you really were true about that. Yeah. Well, that's all I have. I appreciate greatly, and I felt like it was important for me to actually read this time in particular. I've read the other ones before, and I look for changes, and I say, okay, I think I'm okay. But this is a new one. This is something that I said, it's my responsibility to some extent to see if I can actually force myself to read all this stuff. And then I'm surprised, you got a seating chart. I would have never known that if I hadn't read it, Yes. Well, thanks. Yeah. 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 Well, it is. Yeah. Yeah. Well, I do honor you. I think what you do is really important. And whatever we can do, to help make that process better. And I know it's hard, you go and your kid's not there, or kid is there. Should I wait a few minutes or not, And in particular, first of the year, when kids maybe don't know exactly when they're getting on the bus, when they're getting off the bus, that kind of a thing. So you guys are a big interface for us. That first coming to school in the day, leaving school at the end of the day, making sure they get home to their families. Big deal. Big deal. And so I really appreciate that. So thank you very much. Well, that's all I have. Are there any other comments?
Dr. Piercy, I just wanted to add something.
Sure.
I also appreciate the work you do. As bus drivers, of course, as Dr. Piercy said, you're the first and last to see the young people. And you have hard jobs. I wish you could get paid double than what you're getting. I want to just say that the EAs, it does concern me, these incidences that they're describing, and I think we have to figure out a way to do something, and I'd ask the superintendent perhaps there may be some way, either through our auditing process or our process of looking at incidents, I don't know how we do that, but somehow raise it to the board level so that we can at least be aware of it and try to do something about it when there are incidents with children. It just doesn't make sense to expect that you have to handle it on a day-by-day basis if it continues for X amount of time, and you'd have to decide what is reasonable there. And I would only implore the negotiators to please, let's see what we can do to get behind our staff. In a way, I don't think that you're not behind them, but I do think that it's easy to feel isolated and not thought about when you have to handle that kind of stuff on a daily basis. So I'm hoping if there's some way we can work this into seeing where the incidences are happening and then figure out how we connect this to our community schools or whomever, there's got to be some way to try to do something more proactively rather than having an incident and then it's all over the newspaper or the news or whatever. Thank you.
Thank you, Board Member Garcia. Yeah, I think that's a good iteration for us. Okay, so we have a motion in front of us. All those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed?
Aye.
And that's with maybe a few of the little minor corrections.
Duly noted.
Yeah, okay. Okay, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Yeah, thanks. We'll go over to our last, our next to last. Consideration of approval of the notice for intent to revoke the charter of La Resolana Leadership Academy. It's discussion action. Debbie Elder, Joseph, and Art. Thank you for coming, guys. Appreciate it.
Yes.
Thank you. Thank you.
Guys and gals.
Good evening, President Piercy, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy. Just to give you a little bit of a recap, in December, we were here to provide a summative update of La Resolana Leadership Academy's status in implementing their corrective action plan in the area of special education services from June through November. We had reviewed each IEP and found that many of the issues identified in May had not been corrected. At that time, we reviewed the options available to the board in such a circumstance, and we did recommend revocation. Based on the cumulative monthly monitoring visits, we bring you this evening an action item to deliver the formal notice of intent to revoke the charter of La Resolana Leadership Academy. The draft of the notice is in your packet, and that draft describes the legal basis for the potential revocation. It identifies the date and process for a revocation hearing, which will be on Wednesday, March 20th at the regular Board of Education meeting. The notice establishes a March 8th deadline for the school and APS to present written materials and all evidence to be used in the hearing. And the notice establishes that the hearing will be conducted by the APS Board of Education. Upon your approval this evening, our office will deliver the notice of intent to revoke La Resolana Leadership Academy in accordance within the required 15 days of the vote. And if you have any questions, we are happy to answer them. We also have Mr. Melendres here to help with any questions on the legal side.
Okay, so what we're voting on is basically to send the revocation notice to La Resolana to be followed up with the actual hearing, which would be on the 20th, which is a regular board meeting. We would have a special section of that, like a special issue, that would have this outline of, that you've seen on the second page here, which says there would be a public comment specific to that issue, a presentation by the APS, presentation to the board, and then questions from our board members, and then a vote. So that's kind of how that would work. So are there any questions about that? Any comments from the board members?
I do. I just have a question. So it will be the board that will hear the hit. We're not assigning this to another
Nope.
to a hearing officer or another person to hear. We're doing this hearing.
That's right.
We're conducting the hearing itself.
And that's basically the outline of what the hearing would be, is what you saw on the top of the second page here.
How did we make that decision? Did we make that decision? Or,
I think
mean,
that's-
I missed this. Maybe I missed something here.
No, we're the board that actually authorizes them, and we're also the board that would authorize the revocation of them. That's our role.
Okay.
Now, it's not any different than we would normally do. When we have the responsibility to actually authorize a charter, then we also have the responsibility to deauthorize, so to speak, the charter or revoke their charter.
Okay, so
Now, there are other avenues for the charter to take beyond us if they want to, I guess, but that would be our role in terms of what we do. So we would conduct the hearing.
I was just confused as to who should be conducting the hearing.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Yes, Board Member Garcia.
My understanding is that there are a number of audit concerns that came up in the course of the review. Will those be brought out in the hearing?
Yes.
Mr. President, Mr. Garcia, are you referring to financial audit or the?
Yes, financial.
Mr. President and Mr. Garcia, the financial audit has not been finalized by the state auditor, and we're not allowed to comment on that at this time. Just yet. Soon.
Soon. Other comments from board members?
So our revocation is based on the fact on the numerous corrective action plans and their inability to meet all of those corrective action plans that we had in place for them up through November? Wait, up through?
President Piercy, Board Member Montoya Cordova, actually, we did another follow-up visit in January and into early February. We are giving the school absolutely every opportunity to demonstrate significant progress. So it won't be just based on the November visit.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments from the board?
So in the hearing is the time that we discuss the real issues.
Right.
Okay.
I'll entertain a motion for sending the revocation to La Rosalina.
I move for approval.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Thank you. We'll go on to our last item, Government Affairs Update. And again, Heather, Joseph, Art, whoever's here.
We're all here.
You're all here, okay.
Mr. President, Superintendent, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy, quickly we're going to go over the highlights of the budget bill. So House Bill 2 passed out of House Appropriations on Monday. Is today Wednesday? Yeah, Monday. And so we're looking really at the far right column of your packet. And we're looking at the document that says update to the APS Board of Education Government Affairs. It's color-coded as well. Okay, we're all on the same page? Okay. So what we have here is we're showing you last year's operating budget, and then all the way on the right-hand side is the budget that actually passed out of House Appropriations and will be on the floor of the House of Representatives at the end of, we believe, sometime this week or Sunday or Monday. So the at-risk index is where $113 million is being placed, and so that increases the at-risk index from 0.13 to 0.25 in the funding formula. And then there's about $7 million to increase the bilingual and multicultural education program factor. And then they're taking a $6 million credit by capping the age of students at 22 and moving that money to higher education. And then there's a $14 million savings for the small school size adjustment, and that's a 3-year reduction in that. Rural schools will also get an additional factor, and they're funding that at $8 million. And then there's this $62.5 million that is being funded for us to move towards 190 days funding after school programs and then 80 hours of professional development. And so we really have to be cautious of how the language is rolled out and how we're implementing that, and that'll be part of the process through Ms. Coleman's office. K-5 Plus is actually moving into the formula, and that is at $119 million. So if you go to page 2, they're funding an increase to ERB at 0.5%, which is $8.5 million. And then the major sections there that you should be paying attention to is salary increases. So they're providing a very minimal amount to set a $10 per hour minimum wage for all educational related employees. There's a bill that House Bill 397 that would require school districts to have a $12 minimum an hour salary. And that's in House Appropriations, but they did not fund that. So they only funded to bring everyone up to $10, which of course you see there is very minimal. So what they're recommending for teachers first, if we could go there, is they're recommending, and they're funding at $38 million, minimum tiers of $41,000 for level 1, $50,000 for level 2, and $60,000 for level 3. And then principal minimum salaries have to be at $60,000. That's the minimum. And then they're funding additional raises, which you can see for teachers, principals, and other staff there, all at 6%. So the budget language is very clear, and what they're wanting you to do is come up to the minimums. So come up to the 50, and then do 6% is how the language in the budget bill is worded at this time. Unfortunately, transportation, you see them not being funded to what they need to be. The pre-K kindergarten fund has received additional money, and then there's additional money for instructional materials. You know, there's $57 million for instructional materials, but the bill that would allow for some flexibility is having some trouble. So I'll turn that over to Heather.
President Piercy, members of the board, Superintendent Reedy, you have before you a chart that we've continued from the last presentation that shows you the priority bills that we are tracking. And based on your input, we added in some more color coding to show the movement through the legislature and where we see those things moving. The House Bill 45 that Dr. Escobedo just referenced was Cheryl Williams Stapleton's instructional material bill that passed 2 House committees in the House floor and then failed in Senate Ed Committee last week. And it failed there because of the attempts to eliminate private schools was not well received. So the problem with the failure of that bill is it was also making it possible so that we would have more flexibility to spend instructional materials and not be bound to the 50%, only 50% of the funds being spent on PED approved list books. So that that law is, will currently stand unless there's other legislation that changes that. I guess if you let me know, is there any specific ones you want information on from this list or any more follow-up?
Well, I have several questions, but I'm going to open up to the board members. You have questions? Board Member Patterson?
On the attendance bill, I know it was in judiciary as of last week. House Bill 236 on attendance.
Real Lobos, yeah.
Yes, Real Lobos.
Yeah. President Piercy, Board Member Candelaria Patterson, that bill, I believe, is set to be heard this week again in another, or on the House floor. Where do we have it?
It was in judiciary as of last week, even earlier this week. I think it was there. I wasn't sure if it was moved.
Oh, yeah, the amendment that they were still working on. In committee, the conversation was removing the penalty for students to not lose a driver's license based on attendance. So it's still alive and still moving, but there's, I'm not sure exactly where that one is right now.
So the amendment to remove the driver's license, which is so punitive. I mean, I don't know why we would do this.
Yeah, that part is being removed.
It is being removed.
Amendment, but we haven't heard it again on a committee yet since they talked about removing it.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you.
Other comments? Board Member Peterson?
Let's see. I continue to be concerned that the lowest paid employees are looking at the same percentage of salary increase as the higher paid certified staff, and that's hopefully something that we can keep pushing on. I mean, one of the things that I think we can be sort of proud of as a district is that we've always really worked at going above whatever's allocated, but it would sure be nice to not have that be a fight within our budget for a change. So that's one thing. I'm still, even though I know it's better, I still have concerns about Senate Bill 245 and charter schools' access to facilities. I know it's been substituted, but I think it's one that we need to keep an eye on. I think there's some really exciting ones coming through for ethnic studies and some support for increasing the number of TESOL endorsed teachers and all that. My one concern is, are the universities prepared for this? Are we looking at how many teachers are coming in and being hired from other places in the country, and just the whole issue of the teacher shortage? And I mean, the momentum is also positive, and at the same time, the reality of implementation and making sure that both teacher voices and educator voices for what goes on in the schools and district voices for what the reality is of how it takes time to implement, especially when it comes down to credentialing of teachers, that there have to be, I mean, I think there has to be really strong and clear goalposts, but those goalposts can't, I mean, it's not going to happen overnight. So hopefully there's the way of making sure that the urgency is felt, and at the same time it's within the realm of what are the universities prepared to take on? How do we do the professional development so that it respects what teachers are doing, making sure that, I mean, going back to the materials, making sure that the instructional materials that staff has access to reflects our community and is part of what's being implemented for ethnic studies. So
thank you.
Those are, let's see, and there are just, if I can find it, there were like two other specific concerns. Having come from the NMSBA Board of Directors meeting, the impact aid, and I know I've picked brains and really struggled with understanding it, and I really appreciate the time that you all have taken in helping me understand it. And it's a real dilemma, because I think there is a real moral imperative to make sure that the districts that are impacted, and that's especially Zuni and Gallup-McKinley, making sure that they have access to that money. And so I appreciate the approach of saying we can't have losers. And if we can just keep that in the forefront of how do we come up with the money so that we don't damage what happens to children in Albuquerque, and at the same time do what's right for the communities that do bring that money in.
It's that Dr. Piercy and Board Member Peterson Impact Aid was a big conversation in the last few weeks. I think that it'll probably resurface, and it is a question of how to decide who gets funding and how we allocate resources.
And I mean, I don't see any way that it's not going to be influenced and impacted by the Yazzie decision, because it's, I mean, it just seems like when we look at sufficient funding. So somehow figuring out how do we be the voice that our community in Albuquerque needs? How do we continue to advocate, but making sure that we're, and I do appreciate the fact that I think you all are thinking along that line of trying to not divide and trying to be supportive. But when they look at the SEG, they've got to figure it out, because it could be set up really badly. Thank you. So it looks like there's conversation that's going on.
Yeah, Well, impact date is definitely not an easy conversation to figure out. There's a lot of nuances, and I'm sure we'll continue to see it evolve. And it is a hard decision when, the whole state's trying to come together to figure out how to allocate resources across many very different districts with different needs. And we have at-risk students, all over in every district. And Yazzie Martinez was a lawsuit to represent 11 districts, but it's a story of the whole state. And so we have to keep that in mind when we look at legislation too.
It's definitely a part of my community, my district's community.
Other comments?
I do.
Yes, Board Member Garcia?
Well, I appreciate your leadership and all that you do to kind of make some sense of all of this. I'm still having a hard time trying to understand a number of them, but House Bill 407, what exactly is this 50-year tune-up that we're looking at this point?
Board Member Garcia, Dr. Piercy, I'll let Mr. Melendez take this because it's a 472-page amendment to the election law from last year.
I think the question that we want to know too is, does it really fix HB 98?
Mr. President, members of the board, if House Bill 407 passes, it does fix the deficiencies that were left hanging out, if you will, in House Bill 98.
So a follow-up question that I may ask with Board Member Garcia's, because I'm sure this is the one he wants to know. That is that if you have a bond or tax levy election in November, does it get on the roll for the following year?
If the bill passes, it will.
The way it's stated somewhere. I mean, I tried to find out where exactly it was in that bill that I could actually figure it out. And it was hard to figure it out that it really.
It's, I didn't come prepared with the specific section. I can get that to you, but it's in the section which says that if you have an election in November and it passes, there will be a dual bill sent prepared to be sent to the taxpayer, and they will be given an additional 10 days in which to get the bill prepared if it passes. If it doesn't pass, the bill would go out as no tax increase. I'll find that section for you. It's got some parallel language to track the tax code.
It was also difficult to figure out from that language in there exactly how that related to our SB 9 or HB 33 and bonds. I mean, there were words kind of in there, but
yes,
it
yes,
was.
Mr. President.
So it'd be nice for us to see exactly, say, this section is really what applies to the SB 9. This is the section that applies to HB 33. And I didn't go back and look at SB 9 and HB 33 to see what the language was, because I probably could have paralleled it.
I will track after that. There's a specific section that
I did see sections in there, but I wasn't sure which. I could have probably guessed, but
there's specific language that deals with the dates for imposing the tax for SB 9 and House Bill 33, and it removes the barrier that is in the existing law.
Good.
And I'll track after those. They're
okay. That's good.
They're toward the
Go
end
ahead.
of the bill.
Right, so I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No, it's fine. I'm just trying to figure it out myself. I'm wondering, is this going to continue to be a write-in ballot, or will it?
No, Mr. President, Board Member Garcia, if a school board wants to hold an election on a date other than the November regular election, that would be described in the law as a special election. It will be a mail ballot election, yes. So the goal is to encourage school districts to hold their elections in November of odd-numbered years going forward.
And that would apply only to the bond and tax for special elections, right? They didn't give us an option for board elections.
Yes, Mr. President, correct. The board member election will be in November of 2019. It will not be a mail-in ballot because it's in the regular election cycle of 2019.
Right.
Thank you.
Other comments, board? Yeah, Board Member Armijo.
I had a couple of questions, especially since Chris and I are working on a presentation to update policy for schools. We had a discussion recently on the medical
Policies or, I mean, just the whole thing? We're just gonna,
tobacco policies, but we had a discussion last week in reference to the medical marijuana in schools, which would obviously impact updating policy. Has that moved since we last spoke about it?
President Piercy, Board Member Armijo, yes, it did pass Senate Judiciary. Is that where? Yeah, so the medical cannabis in schools has passed 2 committees and I believe is heading to the Senate floor.
Okay, and then it will start over the House?
Oh, past the Senate. Okay, past the Senate floor. So there are at least 2 other bills that are about medical marijuana that have like 2 or 3 line references to school students and their ability to use them. Like the first one we talked about, I think 204, Senate Bill 204, there is opt-out clauses so that when schools can demonstrate that they are at risk of losing federal funding, there's an opt-out. And it was amended before. It was amended on the Senate floor or in Judiciary, Senate Judiciary. It was amended there that decision would be done by the PED secretary rather than local school districts, which I think is a favorable amendment for us, so that that's the person who holds the accountability for that decision rather than school districts.
Great. And what about the cap on age? We talked about that last week.
Yeah, President Piercy, Board Member Armijo, and members of the board, the cap on age seems to be holding pretty strong in House Bill 5, Senate Bill 1, and throughout the legislation. Senator Brandt's bill, which is not a quite companion solution to that, but an effort to offer diplomas to adult basic ed students through PED, is also moving past the Senate floor. So that's going to go back into the House. But there, as you saw from Dr. Escobedo's budget report, there seems to be pretty consistent support for age 22 being the limit and that being pulled out of SCG funding.
I think that's disappointing. So. Okay, thank you.
Can I follow up on that? Is there any chance that they do like a 1 or 2 year phase in so that there'd be time to establish other programs?
President Piercy, Board Member Peterson, I do believe there's a House memorial that's being proposed Friday in House Ed Committee with Representative Garrett as one of the co-sponsors to study that. I'm not sure if that'll have immediate impact or what the decision. I haven't seen anything that is doing that specifically or proposing that for legislation, but that is a conversation that's relevant. Amendment. Yeah, right. Yeah. And Dr. Escobedo was saying it, House Bill 5 too, and Senate Bill 1 originally, there is the grandfathering in of existing students. And so most legislators seem to feel like that's enough to kind of give us time to study because the current students will be grandfathered in.
Seems like we need to start having real conversations with CNM and figuring out how we can make appropriate programs and maybe somehow, anyway, I'm not sure how, but it seems like we need to figure that out and can do it with CNM.
yeah.
Go ahead.
Okay, my turn. Well, I'm very concerned with that. I think you're going to kill Gordon Burnell. And if they don't have a solution, just saying, oh, we'll give $6 million to the higher ed, that's no program at all.
No.
And that's not a program for higher ed. Unless they have a program specifically that they require that coordinates directly with Gordon Burnell, for example, they're going to lose Gordon Burnell. And that's really a bad idea. They're going to have a lot of people up there from Gordon Burnell, I know, talking about this. So they better have their act together because I don't think they have a solution to this. I think they're just saying, well, it should be 22, let them be adults or something. That'll work its way out. No, that's not true. So I think we need to be more than just a little bit vocal about that. Because Gordon Burnell is our charter. It's our charter. We need to be vocal about it and saying no. Unless you guys got a solution to this, and a memorial is not a solution. A memorial is a bunch of people sitting around trying to say, well, what do we got? You know, that's not a solution. So I'm very much not happy about the fact they have this age limit without any solution to the Gordon Burnell or even RFK, for example. RFK has quite a few students that are older. They're not going to get funding for these kids. You know, we talk all the time about, you know, we ought to do something about the jails and the kids in juvenile and so forth. And then we go and do this? Come on. There's got to be a better discussion about that. And they're supposed to hear this on Friday. We're going to be up there Friday. So I think we need to make a little bit more of a statement about this than, maybe not. Looks powerful, you know. They need to understand this is a big deal. Gordon Burnell's had a whole lot of people get diplomas. Over 500 people got diplomas. I want them to go to those graduations. See those kids. You know?
Who aren't kids.
I'm sorry. Yeah, who aren't kids. You know? Who are 33 and have a third grade education basically when they start out with this kind of stuff. You know? So.
I just have to say, frankly, I'm just very, very disappointed. It seems like there's not a more obvious piece of legislation that's out of touch with what's really going on in our state or in our community in terms of needs.
It's not just us either.
It's really arrogant, and it's really a sleight of hand on the part of the legislature. And in my opinion, it's irresponsible. And whoever sponsored this bill, I hope, will be, as they like to say, held accountable. That's all I can say.
Yeah, and it's not just us, because there are other agencies across this state, you know, that have also served through that kind of mechanism. So unless they have some mechanism to fund through the higher education the same exact kind of program, and if they don't put that in a bill and make it statutory so that we know that's how it's going to work, then they're not making a solution to this.
Yeah, President Piercy, members of the board, we agree, and we have been doing what we can to carry that, both the message and the passion that you guys feel for that issue to the legislatures, both standing up in committees when we talk about HB5 and SB1. We've also been talking to them individually. Tomorrow, since you'll be up in the legislature, we have appointments set up with 3 people. 3 of them are sponsors of SB1 and HB5. We have indicated to those 3 people that we imagine that'll be a topic you'll want to talk about.
And most of those bills are wonderful. I mean, the problem is that it's inside of something of bills that we really want.
Right. Yeah, we do want these bills, but come on, guys. You know, that's the trouble. You know, they slide these kind of things inside of bills that we really need to have, and then they expect us to go ahead and, you know, approve the bill, even though we don't like that particular thing, you know. Yeah. I want a line item veto, you know, veto that part, you know.
Yep.
I guess that's what amendments are called, right? Okay.
When they're describing that bill, have they talked about the locations or where, I mean, is that included in the FIR? I'll just look it up and see. They haven't just said where, why that $6 million. Like, I mean, it's money that's coming out of the SEG, right? And they're taking it out of the SEG and turning it over to higher ed. So it's based on a number of students is what it sounds like, right? I mean, because it's formula based.
So, President Piercy and Member Cordova, that a lot of the fiscal impact reports around this issue talk mostly about it being a cost-saving measure, that when they look at the statistics or the percentage of students who finish adult basic education programs that get diplomas, it's and they compare the ones in SEG funding versus the ones in higher ed funding at the time, they said we can get essentially the same results with about 15% of the cost. I don't know if a lot of the fiscal impact reports identify Gordon Burnell, but I know that that's a school that was kind of highlighted, at least in LESC study interim committees, as being a school that maybe should not be using SEG funding because of the the age of the students. So I know that they were maybe aware of that it was going to impact that school, but I'm not sure that the legislatures really considered that the students in that school are not going to be able to effectively use the alternative option in higher ed. And so I feel like there is some now backpedaling a little bit to study. I've heard them say we're looking into what MDC is supposed to do, or who's supposed to service them, and what kind of mental social supports we can provide, because that's the points we've made when asked, is that these students should be served through the SEG, even though they're adults. It's appropriate because they need the types of wraparound services more than just basic higher ed programs would provide, and have tried to point them out as an exception. So I do feel like they're looking and studying, but I'm not sure. It was probably, without us bringing this up, it might have been, kind of collateral damage of unintended policy, potentially. Is there anything else?
And just, just out of the experience out of our agency, at the Department of Workforce Solutions, because we work with all the adult ed all the adult ed programs it's part of the continuum. So I can see why it could be a difficult conversation, because at the same time, there is some merit to a lot of the programs that they do. They do them well for those that are going to adult basic ed, because there is some value to their programs. So I can see why that puts us kind of in a weird spot. It's not that higher ed doesn't do a good job. I think the question is that the money that is going to these schools based on the SEG is that it's also covering a lot of operational costs for them.
Correct. President Piercy, Board Member Cordova, that's correct. The other point that I think kind of complicates this conversation is there are some school districts who have provided information to legislatures that favor the idea of an age cutoff, because if they're smaller districts, they don't have the kind of programs or resources that APS has to put those students in different settings or different programs. And so they're faced with situations where an older student is sitting alongside younger students, and it's causing some issues in those schools and districts. And so I think the initial idea behind the age 22 was just to set a policy so that, that K-12 educational settings would, be K-12 students, and they wouldn't have to turn away, or they would have an ability to turn away people who aren't in that age grouping. And I can see that perspective as well.
And there are a lot of adult ed programs that have, or a lot of, God, I've got a frog. A lot of those programs sit within adult service programs where they have a braided kind of funding that supports those other things that we're talking about, like the wraparound services and the piece, and adult ed is just part of it. I mean, like Catholic Charities has a number of services. YDI has a number of services. There's other things that are blended into it. CNM's truly just an adult ed program, and you go there and it's not going to be like a Gordon Burnell, but you have other parts of the state where you see an adult ed program where it is part of a myriad of services that an individual would get. I know out of the TANF program uses adult ed as well a lot, and they rely on those types of providers that put together, a system of services, but they're using funding from a variety of sources in order to support that, which I think is different than what Gordon Burnell is doing, right? I mean, they're relying on just the SEG to deliver their services. So I can understand why it's probably complex to to argue on this one, because on the one hand, I will tell you, I hear on the other side, on the adult ed side, for us with Workforce Solutions, the number of young people that didn't receive a diploma and don't want to go back through that kind of system. And so being able to have an alternative system through an adult ed program is really helpful, because it also makes a difference too. So, and there is a lot of services and supports that go hand in hand with that, so that we can support them through that program, even, past the age of 22. And I'm glad that they're not part of Gordon Burnell at that point, because they're not incarcerated. They're out on the outside, so they're also looking at things a little bit differently. And this one's a tough one. It's a tough one, I think, because it's just, I think, indicative of too small of a pie. We're all going after the same resources, and they're just trying to figure out where to put those resources to get, the biggest impact. So I can see why it's difficult.
Well, I can tell you right now that those people that get diplomas at the Gordon Burnell are saving them money. I can guarantee you that all the money that they've got there, that $6.9 million or whatever, $690 million, I don't care how much of it is, they're getting it back by those people that are in Gordon Burnell and getting diplomas and not coming back in the system. So I'm not convinced by any of that. I'm not convinced by it's a different kind of adult program, is the point. It's a different kind of adult program. It is not the Workforce Solutions adult program. We don't have people going into the MDC and so forth and saying, oh, well, we'll just do our program over here. No, we've already got a program in there. That's what that program is for, right? So unless they solve the problem with how to fund it in a manner that's very similar to the SEG or whatever, then they're going to lose it. And if they lose it, it's just not going to work, guys, So they're going to have to solve that problem before I'm going to be happy with either one of those, because that's just not right, It's just not right. So, one thing I did send in my comments on the 554 extended time.
Oh, yeah.
My wife and I have talked about this forever, about time on task. We love the time on task. We need more time on task, right? That's a nice logical thing to say. I need more time on task, right? That's what this is about. It's about giving more time on task. The trouble is, it's micromanaging us again on how to do that. It's saying, we're going to do that across the whole board. Everybody has 190 days or whatever they have, right? That's lack of local control. Furthermore, it's going to hurt our equity issue. If they want to give the money for the purpose of saying we need to target at-risk kids, and you need to decide how to do that, like we did with the MRA schools, right? We added days, we added a time in the day, we added those kind of things, and that's the kind of thing that school needs, right? North Star may need a different kind of a program, okay? It's not the same necessarily. So there are a lot of issues there, and I know there's a lot of research that says, more time on task, good, but there are a lot of programs here that we've got, summer programs, we've got the extended programs, we've got the K-3, got all those kind of different things, right? So how does that all work together, and how do we make that work as our district, to work best for all the schools that we have here? Well, I think we need to be able to decide that ourselves, not have that put on us. So I'm not too happy necessarily with the legislature telling us this is what we need to do. I think I'm a big believer in more time on task, but they very specifically take out recess, they take out lunch, they take out those things as the counting, right? I think recess is an educational time period. I'm sorry. And if we're not careful about it, we'll end up taking recess out of the day, see, because then we can...
We already have. There actually was legislation in many schools. I know someone was talking about introducing legislation to say there must be recess, because we know kids need to play. It's when their brains can kind of process everything they've gotten, so, yeah.
So anyway, I gave you my comments.
Thank you.
That's my comments, not necessarily board comments, because everybody may have their own thoughts about those things, right? You asked, I gave you. So we'll see how that works. I was very interested in the school accountability, particularly the part where it told me about what the definition of graduation rate was. Because it told me what the adjusted cohort rate was, and I says, yes, that's what the national definition is of adjusted cohort rate. That is not how we calculate it here in New Mexico. So now my question was, and I sent this to Mimi, because I says, I like that definition. Now, did you really mean that? Or are you just letting whatever happens here, you know, with the record counting and whatever that minutia is? Because that's how it ought to be counted. Because I think, in fact, we are not comparing well with others because somehow that record counting is not helping us in identifying people, you know. And for those of you who don't know what I'm talking about, that's okay. You know, but you know they have a definition in the national. That's how you're supposed to report information in the national. That's how you're supposed to compare. Every state is by that definition. And I've never got an answer as to how you convert our record counting thing into these people. You know, cohort number, how many leave, how many come in. You know, how many graduate. You know, it's people, not some minutia of records. So it'd be nice to know. I mean, I don't know if Mimi's going to tell me what she thinks about that or not. You know, maybe I can talk to her and ask her another question. But
9:30. President Piercy, members of the board, you have a 9 a.m. meeting with Senator Stewart tomorrow morning.
I do have a meeting?
We do, as a group, 9 a.m. to 9:30. She's blocked off for us.
Tomorrow?
Yes. You'll have to ride the bus very quickly.
Okay.
Tell her I said hi.
Okay.
I won't be there
Good.
later.
That's good. Okay. Yeah, and I greatly appreciate you putting it down in color-coded for those of us who need nice visuals. I think that helps a lot in terms of saying, yeah, do we support this, not support this? And then at least we can make a decision ourselves saying, oh, wait a minute, I didn't agree with that or I agree with that. But at least we have kind of a guidance here. And also it helps to understand whether legislature in general is supporting this or not supporting this, you know, so that we kind of know that information. So that's good. Any other comments from the board? I look forward to this 3 days, see what we can do.
That'll be good.
Yeah, and thank you for all you do. I know you're working hard. And I know it was a tough day the other day when I called Art and he decided not to drive up. So it was good. It was snowy. Yeah.
God, I'm hoping there's no snow Friday.
Well, you know, they say there may be snow Thursday or Friday. So, yeah, could be. Could be. Any other comments from the board?
5 a.m. rail runner.
Yeah. Any other comments from the board? Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Appreciate it very much. So we'll go on to board member comments. We're closing in on things. I'll start down here with board member Reedy. I'm sorry. With board member Armijo. There you go.
Still can't believe you put her next to me. I don't know how we're going to stay out of trouble. Just kidding.
We've been very busy this meeting.
All the things I want to tell her all week long, I'm able to share with her here, so that works out good. So, first of all, I have no words as it pertains to Cleveland High School. I can say a million times my heart goes out to them, and I can send prayers, but again, I no longer know what to say when it comes to this kind of stuff. So my heart does go out to the parents. And as a parent of a high schooler, you know, I cry every time this kind of thing happens. So it's a tough thing. So I feel for those students and those parents. We are going to be together on and off for the next 3 days at the School Board Association meeting in Santa Fe. So I look forward to spending time with each of you and being in those workshops. I look forward to presenting a workshop with Chris. So thank you very much for making me do that. And I also wanted to point out that next week is February 27th is Dolores Huerta Day up in Santa Fe. So I'll be there on that day. That'll be exciting. we also received an invite recently from the city of Albuquerque, their equity and inclusion, from Michelle in reference to a racial healing event that they have going on. So I would encourage folks who can attend that to please do attend that. Anything that we can do to help support her department, I think would be great, and the work that they're trying to do in the community. So thank you, and I look forward to working with you, Chris, on Friday. So thank you, everybody.
Board Member Patterson.
Okay. Is Mr. Coker here? Yes. Mr. Coker, you know, as a woman of color, I hear you. I understand what you're talking about. But I would also encourage you to be part of the solution and provide input. Look forward to working with you as well. So I encourage you to, you know, we want to hear from you, but we would also like to encourage you to be part of what we are trying to do here in APS. But I understand what you're going through as well, or what you have gone through, or continue. You know, I had the honor of attending middle school, the honors choir, the honor choir. Wonderful, beautiful voices. I mean, and the way that they make the selection is made for these individuals, for these students, is amazing, because it's not just about their beautiful voice. It's about who they are in school, their character. And I believe Dr. Piercy was there as well. Just beautiful. It was really an honor to be there and stuff. And you know, I just really enjoyed this meeting today. We had our. It was my pleasure, really, to even get to talk to the math monster. That was just, to me, that was the best thing of this meeting, this whole meeting. So I look forward to seeing her back here again, Dr. Piercy, and then I think there's a challenge to you with that, the math monster and stuff. I think, you know, she'll be ahead of everybody and stuff. But I don't have anything else to say, and I thank all of you for being here. Thank you so much, including the staff.
Thank you, Candy. Board Member Montoya Cordova.
Also to Mr. Coker, thank you for continuing to be here at the meetings and to also push us. I also am an individual who understands that experience of feeling like you're somewhat invisible, or that you're not understood, or that your issues are not understood. Having gone through that kind of similar experience myself, I can understand the frustration. What I can say also is that as a board member, I am finding it encouraging that that the district is putting a lot of effort and energy into the issue. I think it's not one that comes with just like one silver bullet, you know, that we've got the solution and it's going to happen and it's going to happen overnight. But I am heartened by the efforts and the work that is going on. So I'm feeling less and less frustrated by it. And there's not a moment that doesn't go by that I don't think about that student and the issue that happened for that particular student. I think it's any kind of incident that happens to a student like that is disappointing, at the very least disappointing. At the most, it's also it's gut-wrenching and it's heart-wrenching, and those are things that I know that every single one of these board members, we take it to heart, and there's a lot of sadness around some of the things that we cannot fix. But what I will say is that we also remain extremely hopeful, because we can't be anything but hopeful. We have to. There's so much work that needs to be done, and I'm encouraged by the commitment of the district and the board members that, that we, I think we really do put our heart and soul into figuring out how we can be better. And we want to be better, and we strive to be better. I can see it in the actions that we got to celebrate tonight. Civic engagement by a second grader who's a math monster, and 7-year-old who also raised money, who raised $500 for homeless youth. I'm encouraged by those kinds of opportunities that students are given to bring forward a different side of themselves so that they can understand the depth and breadth of their capacity and their ability to give to our community and also grow themselves. So that also was very humbling, and it's also encouraging. And then I just, of course, a shout out to all of the union members that were here tonight, because it's with them, it's their collaboration, and it's their commitment to wanting to be a partner with us that also makes our school district a better district. Love those educational assistants, because I was raised by one who loved her schools and loved the district, all the good, the bad, everything that went with that. But she was definitely dedicated to every single student and every single family that went through our schools in the South Valley. In terms of the professional development for the educational assistants, one of the things that I would love to see happen at a minimum is include information or include them in any kinds of opportunity to learn about ACEs and the impact on child behavior, but also on trauma-informed approaches. I've seen schools where they've taken educational assistants and made them partners in that process, and it's made them better educational assistants too, because they know how to handle those situations when kids get rough. And then, of course, it goes without saying, it's just the warning signs of suicide and prevention on that. Bus drivers and educational assistants have always saved lives in doing that. So I hope that they also get an opportunity to be parts of leadership teams. I know my mother enjoyed, she had the distinct pleasure of working for Don Duran. And Don Duran selected my mother to be part of a leadership team in her last 4 years of working at Ernie Pyle Middle School. And being part of that leadership team was just incredible what it did for her, but what it also did for our community. Because she became part of a team to help students that were struggling in school and identifying them and keeping them connected. So I saw that opportunity and how it grew my mother personally and professionally. It went a long ways for her, and I think that all of our educational assistants really strive for those kinds of opportunities as well. And so I just want to give a shout out for them and advocate on their behalf to be considered part of leadership teams in schools. Thank you.
Board Member Garcia.
Well, I almost think I've said enough to get me in trouble for the next couple of lifetimes, I guess.
Oh, no.
But that's not unusual for me. I want to say, Mr. Coker, you are absolutely respected by me and I believe by my colleagues here on the board. You can come and say what makes sense to you to be said, and we will hear you out. We are in a straitjacket of sorts that we can't comment on your comments. I appreciated your questions. I couldn't answer them, and I was so glad that Dr. Marmol was able to assemble a team to help begin to answer those questions. From an old man's perspective, I can only tell you that having been on a parallel path with you maybe from a number of years back, I can just say that what we're trying to do mostly is impact the organizational culture of the district, and it's a school by school, classroom by classroom basis, and that's not an easy task, and I don't know that that gets taught very well in the institutions of higher learning. And we got a lot of people that are just trying to keep one nostril above the sewage when it comes to going paycheck to paycheck, who are trying to do their best they can to serve their children. But it's a tough set of circumstances. That's not a good excuse. It's not meant to be an excuse for the racism that exists, that has existed for a number of years. But I do think that we, as a board, have operated on the idea of intentionality. We intend to move this district forward. We've done lots of things that I believe are innovative, interesting, and provoke a lot of reaction on people who see things completely opposite to what we do. And that, I guess, is just part of human nature, but it's also a manipulation of sorts. And we've been under attack as a board ever since I've been on. And I can only say that I appreciate you coming, I appreciate you sharing, and I'm more than happy to meet with you individually if you'd like. I can give you my perspective on that, and, you know, $5 might buy you a cup of espresso coffee someplace. But I'm one of 7, and my 7th of 7 is not any less important and not any more important. As a board, we try to act in a way where we move forward as a board, and that's different from my individual experience and or opinions. When we can, we try to enlighten each other to come to terms with what it is we're grappling with. But it is, it's a long road we're attempting to walk. And we have to continue to find ways to find leverage, and I think you're doing that, and you're coming here. It means a lot to me that you're willing to stick it out. So thank you.
Board Member Peterson.
Let's see. I remembered a couple of things from legislative stuff that's actually good news. One is that I think we can be really confident that there's going to be support for community schools and that it's going to express itself in some dollars for coordinators. And it's such a marked difference from past years when we couldn't even get it onto the table really for real discussion. And so that's exciting. It's probably going to be part of the governor's package, and she'll make it part of her call. And it ties into so many other things that's going on. And one other thing that I found out today, you know, APS and ATF have had a long-standing relationship for mentorship and really had a wonderful mentorship program that hasn't been funded, and it's going to be funded again. We're not, I mean, we've been self-funding. APS has continued to fund it, but it hasn't been funded at the state level, and it's looking like it's going to be a line item in the budget to actually have money to support new teachers, entry-level teachers, and that's really exciting. I was at the NMSBA Board of Directors meeting, which is why I'm late, and there are just a couple of things that came to my attention that, and I'm going to bring it up now so that I don't forget, and because Brenda and Megan do such a wonderful job of keeping us on track of things that we need to attend to. One is that the scholarship program is up and running, and the NMSBA is putting aside $24,000, so there'll be $1,000 for 3 individuals from each of the regions, and we need to decide on, we need to figure out the process for being able to submit a name for a scholarship recipient from the NMSBA. And then the other one is there's an Excellence in Student Achievement Award, which is for adults that impact student learning, and it can be community, it can be staff, it can be a board member. So, and that we get to pick a person. We could actually pick more than one if we pay for the plaque. But so anyway, those are things that we can put on the list to address. And there were a couple of interesting things from the New Mexico Athletic Association that I thought was interesting, because I guess they've had a lot of discussion going on around transfers and how long you have to sit out for transfers. And so the existing transfer policy is going to stay in place, except, and actually the only school that this applies to, if a student transfers into Sandia High School, they didn't name Sandia High School, but it's the only school that it applies to for the International Baccalaureate program. If they transfer in for that program and stay in that program, there's a waiver for the sit-out period. So that was one interesting thing. Or another is that there's still, I guess, waiting to be heard. The PED, the former PED, gave Ames Charter permission to move to Rio Rancho and circumvented both the PEC and the local district. And so NMSBA has joined onto a lawsuit contesting the authority that the PED secretary, that the Secretary of Ed would have to simply grant a charter to a school. So that's an interesting thing. The other thing is that we need to figure out a process for giving input on ESSA, because the existing ESSA plan was based on the A to F grades. And so there's a very short window for submitting, and we need to figure out, I think, how to get both input from the community, input from staff, and probably from us as a board, how to replace A to F with a valid method. And the thing that's being proposed, I think, most directly is a dashboard and what that looks like.
They have it online.
So we should
They have
probably.
the request for comment online.
Yep. It's hard to find it. You have to go to the administrators section.
Actually, it isn't too hard.
Well, you have to hunt for it. It's not
You go
on
right
their
on the
homepage.
home page. It is right on the left-hand side.
I'll look again. We looked.
I know, I just happened to
Anyway,
find it.
so we can respond as individuals, and that's.
But yeah,
one
I
thing.
think you're right. I think having something from the community.
We should probably.
Something, maybe even having some kind of a community meeting or something where we
I think
can
would
look
be
at that
good.
or something, yeah.
And let's see, two other things. One is that, this ties into so many other things. We have, as a district, such a challenge in having good conversation and communication with the community. It's just hard. We look for lots of different ways of doing it. And so when the idea of the podcast came up, I was really kind of skeptical about its efficacy. But I listened, and I thought that the podcast was really well done. And I hope that people can figure out ways, like at the school level and at other school places, to use it as a tool to have further discussion. Because I really was quite impressed with just how professional it was, how informative it was. I thought it was substantive, and I was glad. But then that brings up something else. I listen to KANW all the time, and I would like to know why digital arts has an ad on there every single day about what a wonderful school they are and how they have low enrollment and how they have all of these opportunities on KANW. Data Charter School has an ad on there. Come to our open house. And talk about, if you want to make me hot under the collar, it's like, why don't we have ads on there for Whittier Elementary School? We have an amazing Genius Hour. We have an extended year. Come to Albuquerque High, and you will have a world-class bilingual SEAL opportunity. Why are we letting a charter school use KANW and we don't have a voice about the schools and what's going on in our schools? I just don't understand it.
Yeah, it is.
So that's something that I think we need to take care of. And talking about community schools, so much of what's going on, I think it's the kernel. The community school framework is that little kernel of how do we bring the community in? How do we make substantive that connection with the community? It doesn't work well in this format, but I think the community school councils have that essence of how do we have meaningful, real communication, conversation with the community. And finally, I'll add on to the conversation that's already gone. I have a half-finished letter to Mr. Coker because we did read your letter. I think all of us read your letter and your request, and it's really, there were lots of things that I couldn't answer. There are a couple of things that I'm proud of that we've done as a district that I think we deserve some recognition for. When I read the part about working with the PED, now I think we have a PED that wants to work with us and that we can work with. But I was thinking, you know, one of the things that I'm proud of this board and this district is that when the PED tried to change the bilingual, the opportunities for bilingual programs and tried to limit what that would look like, APS joined together with many of the tribal governments to push back on that and to make sure it didn't happen, to say communities know what a bilingual program should look like, and we're going to stand by that. When the PED talked about manifest destiny and tried to change the social studies curriculum, tried to change the end of course exams that would reflect a much more restrictive and just isolated and racist program. We pushed back on that. One of the things that has made our relationship through the past 8 years antagonistic is that we have pushed back on things. I'm optimistic now that we're in a different environment and that we can move forward. We have 500 years of a community based on racism, and we have a challenge to take on, and I think we're committed to doing that. But it's not simple, and it's going to take time, and we need to work on it. And so hopefully all the steps that we're taking get us closer and closer. You know, we've been pushed a lot for an apology, and you know, I think every person up here can go, Lordy, I am so sorry. This is so outrageous, but it's so meaningless. I mean, anyone here can apologize, but that's not what's going to make a difference. It's figuring out what's the action that we need to take and how are we going to build that. And so we have work to do, without a doubt.
Thank you. Just a few comments. It's getting late. I guess one of the main things that I worry about with what our optimism is here with our new budget and all the things we're working towards, which are very positive, is I worry about the sustainability of the recurring funds. I really do. And you mentioned availability, you know, in other words, it's great to say we've got some more money. The question is, do we have people to do the job we really need to get done? You know, I mean, it's going to be a question to us too. And so I hope we really are thinking towards the question of how we really do sustain this over time, right? I mean, I love all the ideas. I love the excitement. I love the collaborations. It's as good as it can get here. But we do need to worry about how we're really going to sustain that. And that means the economic development. How is that really going to work? And how do we really diversify? And how do we, you know, put that together? So although we're focused on education, you know, we really need to focus on supporting those things that are going to also help the whole economy, you know. And so I look forward to that. I can't tell you how much I enjoyed talking with Evelyn, Ms. Evelyn, the math monster. She showed me all her work.
Competition.
I was pretty impressed. I mean, we're talking basically, in case any of you know what this is about, we're talking about linear equations. It's single variable, actually double variable, two variable linear equations. And she was explaining to me, she says, did you know that a minus or minus x is just x? I says, yeah, that's good. I like that. And And she had all kinds of equations that were pretty high level. I was very impressed. But I'm also impressed with the educators. I mean, we got educators here who are just excited as can be to have a bright little young lady who can sit up here and say, math is fun. I mean, really, what more do you want? It's fantastic stuff. So, and I did, thank you, Board Member Patterson, for mentioning the Mid-School Honor Choir. It was great to see them. I also went down to Lew Wallace. I didn't know where Lew Wallace was. I've only been here 10 years, Why would I know where Lew Wallace is? But I found Lew Wallace. It's what I might call my inner city school. And I went down there because I wanted to see how this school enrichment model worked. And I was really impressed. We had a person there who was from Connecticut. I believe she is one of the professors there who is actually working on this kind of a thing, this school enrichment model concept. She's here to kind of observe and to see how we're working this. And the teacher there was incredible. And these kids were all, some of them were gifted, some of them were, they were all pretty gifted in an essence, like we talk about gifted, but not necessarily from a tested gifted. And they were working on tearing apart motors. It was fun, Let's talk about fun. These kids were having so much fun, and it was hard. Some of this stuff was hard, They were having to figure out how to, what these parts were and how they'd take them apart and what they, all those kind of things. And these were really heavy motors. These are not something that they warned them to please don't pick them up and drop them on your toes. But they went through a whole sequence of things, like, what do you think's going to be in there? What do you think's going to be inside the motor? Those kind of things. So kind of made them kind of think about this process, It was very good. I was very happy to see that. And the kids were wonderful. And they didn't pay attention to us. In fact, pretty soon some of the adults are down there working too, It was kind of fun to see it. But I enjoyed it. And so I'm encouraged by that. I think it's good stuff. I think it's the things that help us get this integration of talents and abilities and differing abilities, And I went to the Retired Educators Luncheon. We had a prime speaker here, our superintendent. I think we probably need to do a little more for our retired educators, I know when we have our retirement ceremonies, at the end, we need to have them involved in this a little bit and make sure that all the retirees get notified about, this organization and how they can be a part of it. And Superintendent Reedy did a great job, I think, in terms of helping them understand a little bit more about what we're doing. So that was great. I really did enjoy that. And for my Joseph, who's not here, he left. I'd like to meet with Karen Trujillo, our Secretary Designate. I'd like to talk with her. I'd like to say, Karen, I want to let you know that APS is here and that we certainly appreciate you. And if we can be of any help at all or service, we need to make that connection. So maybe sometime when we're up there, we'll get a chance to meet her and say hello and just, let her know that, we're here as a resource and I'd like to meet with her. So, and I appreciate Mr. Coker being here. Thank you very much. I think you were speaking specifically to some of my comments. So I will be very careful about my comments. I don't mean any disrespect at all, none. And I think we're making a lot of progress in terms of getting coordination and some of the suggestions you have to our people and maybe some responses back. So I think that's going to be a positive thing. And I think, again, if we can have more face-to-face meetings where we can kind of talk these things out more quickly, I think we'll probably get a little better resolution in terms of some of the information that's useful. Both from you to us and us to you. So I think that'll be useful. And so I look forward to continuing that process. So hopefully that'll help. And appreciate you staying around the whole time to hear this. So thank you from the board members. You've heard that. So I appreciate what you've said, and I appreciate your suggestions. So no disrespect there at all. So I'll let you know that, okay? So that's pretty much what I have to say. So the next board meeting will be Wednesday, March 6th, 5 p.m. here, and the next special Board of Education meeting will be Monday, February 25th. And that's actually going to be, I believe, a real finance meeting in reality. So Peggy will run that. So with that, we are adjourned. Thank you, guys.
Dave, you want to be here at 6?
Yeah, Barbara, you and me. 6 tomorrow, we'll go up. Is that okay?
That's fine.
Okay.
Are you going to be able to get up in order?